Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 10 of the United Front Football Podcast. We've hit double figures.
Who'd have thought?
Who'd have thought? Who'd have thought we'd
Someone
be
said in the comments.
me and you?
Someone said in the comment section the other day that most podcasts don't get past episode 7, so we must be doing something, right, to get to 10.
Yeah, we're persistent, if nothing else.
Yeah, exactly. Persistence does pay off.
Well, hopefully, here we are. We'll see how it goes. Right, well, we'll jump straight in as we always do. Welcome everyone, by the way, to another episode. As you may be aware, we usually start the podcast with answering a few of your tweets, or reading out a few of your tweets. Every week, we put out a tweet over on @UnitedFrontCast, asking you for your football hot takes and opinions of the week gone by. Obviously, there's not been as much football, with it being the international break. Sometimes people just completely dial out of football for 10 days, which, to be honest, I do quite a bit. It's nice to have the break.
You can blame them.
Yeah. There's just so much every other time of the year. It's like, 10 days of nothing. Fantastic. Well, questionable England performances maybe. But we'll start off with a regular to the channel. He's here every week. How we roll, Owen has put in one that I quite like, and I can definitely see why he wanted to kick off the show with this. Kudus should remain on the bench for West Ham. I feel like he does his best work in a tiring defence, looking potentially world class, but I think he'll be most effective when used like City used Grealish season 1 or Foden at times. A closer running at people, not closer. Well, I mean, first of all, Grealish basically plays every game he's fit, so that's a terrible comparison. And
I like Owen.
Yeah. But we'll open the floodgates and let you go in on this one, because I'm going to guess you disagree.
Yeah, I mean, like, don't get me wrong. Like, when I saw this come in, it wasn't like I was, clenching my fists and screaming into a pillow or anything. Like, I wasn't that angry about it. I kind of see what he means to a degree. Like, I think a lot of that sort of thing of, he'd be really effective coming off the bench, is that's sort of been thrown at Antonio a lot, especially over the last couple of years, as he's getting on a bit and his performances haven't been as consistent as they maybe once were a few years ago. But I do think it's a weird comparison. Like you said, I see what he means in terms of first season at City Grealish, where he was, coming off the bench quite a lot. I think England deployed him in a very similar way in the last Euros. Like, he was very much like an impact sub in that way. But the thing is, the difference is like Man City can afford to have even £100 million player on the bench and give him a year to bed in, because they've got so many world class options specifically in like sort of that area of the pitch, that sort of attacking midfield area, right? Whereas with West Ham, you've got Saïd Benrahma on the left, who's been not having the best start to the season. Like, love Benrahma, but he's not been that great to start the season. You can also play striker Kudus, and again, there's always those question marks over Antonio and Danny Ings, who is one of the biggest waste of spaces in football at the moment. And like,
So you really feel?
Yeah, could do a whole episode dedicated to Danny Ings, but it'd be
I'd rather not.
Useful. Yeah, exactly. It wouldn't be great. It'd be more cathartic for me. It wouldn't be great for the listeners and the viewers. And like I say, you can play in the 10, and obviously you got Paqueta's obviously there. So it's like, it's one of them where I think for a club like West Ham to spend £35 million on a player and to get him in from, I know Ajax are having a awful time of it at the moment this season, but they are still, you compare Ajax and West Ham, Ajax are a gigantic club in comparison. So to convince they're like one of their brightest, like sort of younger talents to come and join us, you can't really have them be on that bench option for the whole season, like, which I don't necessarily know if that's what I mean. Suggestions have it like that for the whole season. I definitely think there's more of a case to say it's difficult for him to get in right now because of how well West Ham have played this season at the start of the season. But as I've made, I've made quite clear over the previous 9 episodes my concerns with the sort of striker situation, and I think Kudus can provide a good alternative to that and sort of mix up the way we play a little bit. So, but thankfully we've got the Europa League campaign, at least the group stages, which it doesn't look like we're going to get out of as well. So it's like we've got those group stage games to sort of help bed him in a little bit more, and hopefully I think sort of second half of the season, I expect we'll see Kudus in the West Ham starting 11 a lot more. Really interested to see what happens on Sunday.
Road to the knockouts card on FIFA.
Yeah, there's that as well. Very, very excited about that. That's going to be great. 87, I think he gets, so that's going to be good.
Wonderful.
But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens against Villa on Sunday, because I think, depending on how that they're going to give us some issues, and we might need to call upon Kudus from the bench again. And if he comes on and has similar impact to what he did in the last game against Newcastle, it's going to be really difficult to keep him out of starting 11.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, like, you can't just go, well, he's just going to be a bench player all the time, because you never know what injuries going to happen, what people's forms are going to turn out, like how good he's going to be when he does start games, obviously, because there is going to be games that he does start. Because the way I always see like a closer is like certain players, it tends to be younger players, like really young, and I'm not talking like, early 20s like Kudus. I'm talking like teenagers who are breaking at the first team, who are like quite one-dimensional, like no fit. Like Garnacho is the perfect example, right? Like of a player who, like, when he starts games, he doesn't seem to have the same effect because fullbacks are given 30 minutes to suss him out, and then they realize, all right, well, as long as I can keep pace with him, then he's fine. And then he gets knackered on the hour mark. But when he comes on the hour mark or on 70 minutes, he's got 20 minutes just to run directly at a fullback after they've been marking Marcus Rashford for the rest of the game. They can go, Jesus Christ. Like, I get the effect of that. And like Doku, even though he's been very impressive when he started, but having that similar effect with Doku off the bench, and like there's, Mudryk at Chelsea, like you see players who are, again, like a younger or slightly more inexperienced player coming off the bench and just attacking, just doing that one-dimensional thing. And I think Kudus is he's got way more strings to his bow than that. He's not just get the ball and run at people kind of player. He's got a lot more to his game than that. And he's already shown it in his brief time at West Ham, right? Had a great last year or last couple of years at Ajax. Since he's turned up at West Ham, he's shown that he isn't just that get the ball and run at someone, attacking midfielder or forward or winger or whatever it is. And like his versatility in that sense shows he's got more strings to his bow as well.
Yeah, it's very, very, very exciting player, and it's like, so I think I said wax lyrical about him last week after the Newcastle game, and I think that was probably the best he's looked in a West Ham shirt, and it's good that I'm saying that this early on when he's still a bench player right now. So it's like the sort of, as the season goes on, more minutes he gets, I'm hoping that we'll establish himself in the team and he'll be a first team regular. That's the hope anyway, because we've had some god awful luck with signing attackers over recent years, so we could do with one of them turning out good.
Yeah, I bet you were glad to see Skamaka not putting a good shift against England, weren't you?
Took his finish really well, and I said it on Twitter last night actually to Joe or Friday Night FM. If anyone listens to the 5-star podcast, I don't know of Joe. So out of all the sort of strikers West Ham have signed, like Gold Sullivan here, he's the one I'm still most gutted about that just didn't work out, because I still think there was a really, really good player there.
He just wasn't given the opportunity, and it wasn't even necessarily Moyes' fault, was it? It was like he had injuries, and then like he just couldn't get a run of games and couldn't get a run of form. But it just felt like, it did really feel like West Ham cut their losses incredibly early with him.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, we did well to get. I think we got him for like 35, sold him for 25. I think it was. So to only lose 10 million on him, I think we lost half our money on Haller when we let him go. So we're getting slowly getting better at that sort of thing, thankfully. But it's just David Sullivan things, I suppose. We've got one in from Dan the Man. A lot of the questions actually this week are in response to last week's episode, which is really, really good to see. Dan has come in saying, found last week's De Gea Onana debate, I guess it was more of a discussion debate, but debate interesting. I was at Old Trafford for the Brentford game, first one I've managed this season. Played the whole game in their half, a lot of it was due to Onana's presence as that sweeper, which De Gea never offered. The amount of times we recycle possession for Onana just below our halfway line was excellent. It's sorting out what we do at the other end now. Plus, his distribution is fantastic. I think Dan was right, and he's just a keeper low on confidence when it comes to keeping the ball out of the net. So, I mean, pretty much echoing what you touched on last week with Onana, and I think it's that thing, isn't it? I think because of, again, we spoke about before, it signs for United, you're always going to be under the spotlight more. I think I even said last week, I don't feel like he's made as many like obvious mistakes as people have made out this year, but there's definitely, I think he's at the very least, he's definitely, you can see where him being in goal is going to improve United long term. And I think once he gets over this sort of little periods, I think it will end up being a really good signing for United.
Yeah, definitely. And I can only echo what I said last week in that we need to bear in mind that, yeah, granted he's signed for Man United. It's like there's a lot of pressure on him, a big spotlight. He looks like a guy who feeds off confidence, and he's had his confidence rocked a little bit. But we've also got to bear in mind that how many games has he played behind a settled back four? This year, or our first choice back four. Like, there's been, who'd have thought we'd be rolling out Johnny Evans this season? But not for the last 5 minutes of a game, but starting games in the Premier League, like Johnny Evans, who didn't have a club a few months ago, and he went on tour to the US with United because we were short on numbers. It's like, oh yeah, well, you know, he's got a 2-month contract to kind of come out and train, and it comes back and he's starting Premier League games. It's not a slight against Johnny Evans. He's had a really good pro top level career, but he shouldn't be starting games for Man United at the age of 35, 36. Like, he's not like Laurent Blanc, is he? Like,
he's not.
Let's have it right. Like, he's had a very good career, and he's actually played pretty well in the games he has played. But like, it's just another thing of like, we're missing the players who can take the ball from playing out from the back, as well as, you know, having this keeper who wants to play out from the back. But like Dan the Man says, even though he doesn't have that, the ability to ping it into midfield out to the wings more accurately and actually find the players and keep possession, it's going to change how Man United play in the long term. And yeah, he's just a guy a bit short on confidence. The thing that really blows my mind is the amount of like United fans that come in for him, like United fan channels or like United fan Twitter and stuff. It's like trying to like bagging on this player. It's like, dude, like, what happened to supporting your the players at your club? What happened to supporting your club? Yeah, he's had a shaky few games, but you know, these are the same people who are banging on that David De Gea should have stayed. It's like, well,
yeah,
you know, but like, I'm sure at some point you were bagging on him for not being good enough. Is at this point, is it wanton kind of ignorance, or is it just saying nonsense for clicks? And it gets to a point where I don't know anymore. Genuinely, I've just got no idea, like whether they are just that thick, or they just want to say controversial stuff for clicks. Maybe, I will say I think I do know the answer to
that. yeah, I think it is pretty clear cut. I will say as well, this obviously you are talking to someone who had to suffer about 3 months of having Roberto playing goal for their team, who is quite comfortably not just the worst goalkeeper I think I've ever seen play for West Ham, might be the worst goalkeeper I've seen. Period. So, I think, yeah, he's not a great one of form. It could be a lot fucking worse. Yeah. So, have that, United fans.
Well, yeah, I won't go too much into the United thing. Like we've talked about it pretty much at length in quite a few episodes now. Like maybe further in the season, like get towards the end of the year, and like he's still having these mares, and it's like maybe there is a bigger discussion to have. But I feel like I'm just like rehashing the same point at the minute. We'll go in with Keeney again, another regular, both in the streams and in the comments. With the season now 2 months in, what one position do you think your team could do with strengthening, and what realistic signing would you make to improve them for both of us? So I'll throw it over to you first. Where do you think you could really use the extra? I don't want to say world class player, but like a game changer in your team.
I feel like the obvious answer is to say striker. And it's again, to sort of go over our ground. It's not that I'm bagging on Antonio or anything like that. I just think we need to start thinking about his long-term replacement, because he's 34 now and he's not as consistently effective as he once was. But I think I'll actually maybe change tacks in that I think the left-hand side of our midfield is a potential issue, because, like I mentioned earlier, Benrahma's not started that great this season. Even so much like Piquet has been playing over on that side. And it doesn't look like he's going to necessarily be here next year. Like, I mean, we've supposedly begun talks or tried to open talks with his agents off from a new contract to get rid of his release clause that comes into effect next summer. Which, if we do that, would be unbelievable business. I'm not convinced we will. But he's sort of been our hybrid left winger this season. So we don't really play an out-and-out left winger. He sort of Piquet floats out there and just ends up all over the place, really.
Yeah.
And with Benrahma not being the best of form, Maxwell Cornet, again, similar to Danny Ings, may as well just not exist at West Ham. I forgot he played for us until he started against Lincoln.
Yeah, that's wild, because he had quite the... I don't want to say like he looked great at Burnley, but like you thought, oh, there's a player in there. Like he looked pretty good. When you guys picked him, I thought that's a really good pickup as like a rotation option, someone who can be like quite a direct winger. But you've seen nothing of him. Like, has he been that bad when he's played, or is it just a case of Moisey doesn't trust him?
Well, it's weird. When he first came in, he was sort of in that sort of European 11 when he first joined. So with like Skamaka and all that, and him and Skamaka in particular looks really good. Like we're building a bit of a partnership together, and he was looking quite bright when he was starting those European games. And then he finally got a Premier League start against Wolves, and he went down quite sort of innocuously. It took a bit of a knock on his thigh, and he had to go off after like 20 minutes. And we just didn't see him for 8 months or 6 months, however long it was. Like there's like, oh, he's got a calf injury, might be out for like a month or two. And we just didn't see him again until like late February, March. And I think the reason why he never really got a look in, and Moyes has sort of touched on it in press conferences, that he sort of went to France to see a specialist, and then like that sort of set his recovery time back. And Moyes was saying in press conferences like, "Oh, we know he's got this injury, but we don't know where he is."
So right, yeah.
Like,
it's not great, is it?
France. Yeah, so I think since then he's kind of maybe knowing what Moyes is like. I think it doesn't take much for Moyes to lose trust in a player, and I think as a result of that, he just doesn't, and that and tied with the fact that the guy does not know the offside rule. He came off the bench. It came off the bench.
Neither the rest, though, to be fair.
No, that is true. But like, it's so much of a thing with Cornet. But even so much like first game of the season, he comes off the bench against Bournemouth, but literally like the last 90 seconds of the game, and only ball that gets played to him, he gets flagged offside. It's like, you're on the pitch for 30 seconds, Max. How have you managed this? It was impressive at this point. I massively digress there. But yeah, so I think as much as strikers are concerned, I think we've got players that are versatile enough. In terms of the type of striker David Moyes wants, you could probably put Jared Bowen up there and be fine. You could probably put Kudus up there and you'll be fine. You could probably put Paqueta up there and you'll be fine. But I think that left-hand side is definitely an area where we do it, because we've got 2 or 3 players there now who clearly aren't in favour with the manager. Fornal's been another one. Where in terms of realistic, who could we go and get? That's where I'm sort of struggling. Like, I'm not really too sure in terms of viable left wing options that are out there, unfortunately. But the thing is, we've got some great players coming for the youth academy, so I'd like to see us give one of them a chance. But I don't think under Moyes' management it's ever really going to happen. If it was going to be striker, though, it would for me be Irony from Forest, because Jesus, like he's the David Moyes striker, isn't he? You know what I mean? Like he's Mikel Antonio reincarnated. Like he looks incredible. So he'd be my shout for striker. Left winger, not too sure. Happy for people to tweet in or comment below what left winger they think would be a good fit at West Ham.
Yeah, and I think with wingers, there seems to be a lot of players around who play in those positions that in the right system could flourish. I thought you guys were going to pick up Barnes all summer.
And
he'd have been such a shoe-in on that left-hand side.
Imagine him and Bowen either side, they're very quite similar players. Like both work hard, both get back, and both really fruitful in front of goal in terms of goals and assists. Like I think it would have been great, but I think we were waiting for Rice to go, and we didn't have the money in time. And Newcastle came in. It was like, well, they're in the Champions League, so
and I mean, unfortunately for him, anyway, that what's his name, Gordon played so well this year. Like again, we've said it numerous times. Really turned our opinion on him. Played so well, and I wonder whether actually him signing him, Newcastle signing him, he's gone. All right, well, I'm not just going to be a shoe in now ASM's gone. Like, I mean, I'm actually going to have to pick my game up a bit, and maybe it's pushed him on, but they're going to have a lot of football to play this year. He's going to get game time there.
Absolutely.
For United, God, I mean, where do I start? It feels like we've spent £1 billion and we're still about 6 players missing from a first team.
Yeah.
I think when everyone's fit, when we've got a fully fit team, I think still there is question. Like, I think our starting 11, I think we've got a really good starting 11, some good squad players. I think we're a bit thin at centre back. Like Varane's not the most durable. When he's fit, he's great. Like he's a really good centre back still. He's maybe not quite the elite centre back he was at 26, 27, but he's like, he's still I think a top 10 centre back in the Premier League. I think he's really good, and same with Martinez. So Shaw at left back, whilst he can be off and on, he's still at his best a very, very good left back, one of the best in the league. Dalot and Wan-Bissaka, I would say there's a space there to improve, but I think there are other glaring issues in the squad. We're dangerously thin up top, kind of like me. But at the same time, we have players who can play there, and I really like Luca Højlund. I wouldn't want us to go out and sign a 27-year-old striker for 80 million and go, Højlund, you're on the bench, son, because he's looking mint. Like I'd like to at least give him a year before we go, you know what, maybe you are the guy, and we'll bring in a backup to you, or you're not quite the guy yet, and we'll bring in. I feel like this would be the perfect time to bring in one of those Cavani's, or like an
Ibra or someone like that.
Yeah, just like someone who's got a year or two at the top, who's still like really good, but knows that there's a younger kid coming through, and they're going to kind of nurture him through. That'd be the perfect time to do it. But we cocked that up. We tried that already, cocked it up. My big worry is, and it's not a position that hasn't been invested in, in the last few years is right wing, because we're at the point now where we've spent nearly 80 million on Jadon Sancho, we've spent nearly 90 million on Anthony. Obviously, the whole Mason Greenwood thing that, personally, I hope he never plays for the club again. But he's a he was an incredibly talented young right winger coming through, right winger / forward coming through. He doesn't play for us anymore. Sancho's fallen out with the manager. Who knows what's going to happen with Anthony? And even when he does play, I don't think he's as bad as some people have said he is, but I don't think he's a nailed-on starter right winger for a top European side.
No,
he's not shown that yet. So even though we've spent nigh on £200 million on right wingers in the last few, 3 or 4 years, I think that's still a massive issue. And to have an effective attack, I think we need someone who can go in there. Now, it might be a case that Mason Mount finds himself out there and playing a little bit more of a narrow withdrawn winger role, or playing Bruno out there as more of a cross and delivery kind of right winger. But I think you're playing both of those guys out of their best position if you do that. So as like I say, as much money as we've spent there, I do feel like right wing is the gaping hole there. Other than, like I say, a slightly better or more consistent option at right back, or a younger centre back to offer some depth. In terms of the starting 11, it's a right winger. But I'm kind of like with you, it's like, who do you go for? Like, we've tried so many different players, and unless we're either going to go real like balls out and go for a really young kid like, Bargy, who's like, I know he's like the Football Manager meme, like he's the wonder kid, but in real life he tears it up. He's starting games since he was 16 years old. He's playing well in the Champions League. He's playing well domestically. Scores goals. He's a really dynamic right winger, and I wonder whether, just chucking a gamble in on him, knowing that there is Anthony there who can, be the senior head, and have an exciting right winger. Or maybe it is a case that we do give a bit more of a chance to players like maybe play Garnacho on the right, or there's Amad Diallo, who's just coming back from injury, who had a great season in the Championship, granted, but like a great season last year. Finally, looks
a great
like
season with Sunderland. Well, that's not easy.
He had him, challenging for promotion. Like, he was playing out of his skin, and he's a player who came in for like 30 odd million a few years ago, with a lot of promise. So maybe it is a case of giving one of those guys a chance, but at this point, it's like I don't. Right now, I don't trust any of the recruitment strategy to sign a right winger, because they've tried about 3 or 4 different ones now.
Yeah,
and no one seems to be able to pick a guy who can do it.
Do you know who I think would be a good like rogue shout? And I only just thought with it, but I figure with the way his club's heading, I think he may not necessarily be. I don't watch a lot of them, so I don't know how much of a sort of nailed on starter he is. I think Rafinha, from Barca. I actually think I just looked. He's only 26. Like I said, I don't know how much of a nailed on starter he is at Barca these days, but knows the Premier League, was great in a really, really poor Leeds side. And obviously, I know there's that Leeds United connection. I don't think United fans will care if as long as he comes in and does the business. I think he'd actually be a pretty viable option. I think. Yeah, so,
and he's a player that has shown. I mean, when we played against them in the Europa last year, he was like the best player for them, the most dangerous player. And yeah, he's shown how good he is in the past. I don't know whether Barca are in the financial straits that they once seemed to be, so I don't know how keen they are to shift players on, but it feels like they're constantly fighting against their wage budget. So maybe,
who knows?
Who knows? Maybe this is the year that we finally pick up Frankie de Jong, and we've just got 6 number 10s, and we're just Arsenal for the next 5 years, just signing number 10s for no goddamn reason.
It's like, you need a defensive midfielder. No, more 10s. Bring in all the 10s.
No, we've got a 33-year-old Casemiro who can't run. Don't worry about
that. Oh dear. This next one, I think this is really interesting, because I saw this come through, and I actually saw I think it was someone did a YouTube. I haven't watched it yet, but just, as we were setting up, I saw someone upload a YouTube video talking about this. So I'm interested to get your take on it. So come from Red 4. Said, hot take. I know, and one that I know is unpopular, but fantasy league games like FPL is a detriment to the league as a whole. Can't really explain why, but there's something about Chelsea fans, for instance, triple captaining Haaland and wanting City to do well that doesn't sit right with me. Like, one of them can kind of see his point. Think he's been a little bit overboard with it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going down like people cheering on another team is a bad thing, then people shouldn't be putting on ACCAs on a weekend and all that kind of stuff. Like, it just opens a door for discussion of that, doesn't it? Like,
yeah.
I kind of see where he's coming from. I just think it's bollocks. Do you know what I mean? It's
that's kind of where I land. Like,
oh yeah, like
maybe.
you know what, right? Because I mean, obviously, like everyone's got Haaland as a triple captain. Well, not triple, but like a captain most weeks, right? So everyone's got, Haaland scored a load of goals. But it's like there's nothing sweeter than seeing Man City losing 1-0 and him not having a goal. It's like, oh, great.
Yeah,
fantastic. Like I don't care anymore.
It's the thing of like, so we obviously West Ham played City like a few weeks ago, and obviously he scores the third goal, and I'm like, I remember saying it's that thing. I say it to my mate like, about football. I'm like, God about that. Oh well, at least Haaland scored. It's good for my fantasy team. But it's like I'm not like. It's not like when he was going through, I was going, "Go, son!" Do you know what I mean? Like, I was thinking, "Oh Christ!" Like, look how quick he is.
Singing Blue Moon.
Scoring this, yeah. Like, sorry lads, I'm going over there now. Like, I'm all in on the fantasy league. Like, it's just like again, it's like you say with ACCAs. It's just a nice little. I'm not that I would ever decide I would never bet against. I just wouldn't put West Ham in an ACCA. That's my rule. But it's that thing of like, one, as a neutral, if you're watching other games, it makes it a little bit more interesting rather than just watching the football. Like, I suppose when you put ACCAs on, do you end up rooting for the team you've bet on? Because you're like, come on, need this.
Yeah.
And it's sort of similar with FPL, except it's not really the team you're looking to win. You just want one or two individual players to contribute. And like I say, it's like if Chelsea, I don't know if I've got any Chelsea players in my team, but it's like let's say I had Sterling, right? Like if Chelsea lost 4-1, it'd be great. And if Sterling scored that one goal for Chelsea, it'd be like, I've won both ways because Chelsea have been battered. That's hilarious. Always will be. But Sterling scored, so I've got some points.
Win-win.
It's one of them. I wouldn't say it's detrimental. Like, I don't think anyone's taking FPL that seriously to the point where they're celebrating teams winning. If you are, maybe have a word with yourself.
I was just going to say, like, it's only a detriment if it's completely self-inflicted and you actually give a shit about a game on a browser.
Yeah, that's kind of it, right?
It's how seriously do you take your FPL?
Yeah,
it's not a detriment to the game. It's only a detriment to yourself if you're that much of a nerd. And that's coming from someone who plays hundreds of hours of Football Manager every year. So I can definitely spot a nerd from a mile away.
Plus, let's be honest, bar like, I don't know, 5% of FPL players, most people get 5 games in and go, "Oh, I fucked up for this season. We're back again next year." I can't. I've left 3 injured players in my starting 11. It's all gone to shit. I'm just not going to bother anymore.
Yeah. Like, I've not picked the right player for the first 3 weeks, and now everyone else is 400 points ahead of me. It's like, oh, okay, I'm done.
Yeah, I'm done. See you next year, lads.
Well, we'll move on to like the next few things. They kind of like cover quite a bit of international talk from the weekend. Obviously, international games have happened. We will discuss the England game a little bit later, but Cameron Ewart comes in with a great one. Fun to know Scotland are going to win the Euros.
Do you know what? I saw him go up against France last night. I was like, oh Christ, they did quite well. Then they got battered. So it's fun.
The funny thing is, like in my Discord, somehow I've accumulated a load of Scots in my Discord. There's just like there's this small feral group of people who don't know what football is on my Discord.
This should contain the problem. Sorry, everyone. I'm joking.
So there is kind of like a bit of a running commentary on Scottish football and like how the Scottish international team are going. But every time I've tuned in, it's like they have surprised me. Like they surprised me against Spain. By the way, that was a complete travesty. That McTominay goal being called off.
Absolute bollocks.
Yeah. It's like going back to like bad, the running theme of bad refereeing decisions. I can't understand how that was given like chalked off. But anyway, I digress. But like the thing is with Scotland is that they seem to have. Let me start this again. In the past, Scotland teams have seemed like they've been. At least the last year, it seemed like they were lucky to get there and just happy to be there. And aside of like sheer bloody mindedness, like just didn't seem like they were going to win much. They didn't seem like much quality play. They didn't seem much of a team. Watching the Scotland team now, they're one of those teams who, and they should be because they're a big nation, like with a lot of footballers playing high level football. Like they should be they should have qualified for more tournaments. but they're playing good football now, and they've got good players in good positions. And save having like a top class striker, I think defensively looks solid. I think the keeper's pretty good. Like I think their midfield is really solid. They've got a really solid midfield, like not world class, but it's a really solid midfield. And you know, they've got some forward players who can make a difference. So I think I could see Scotland maybe like not winning it, but I could see them maybe surprising a few people. Because I don't think many people see them get them out of the group stages. But I could see them surprising a few teams, like getting out to the first knockout round, and then depending who you get, you know, it's the cliche that I always spew out is it's knockout football. Then like anything can happen.
Well, look at Wales, like what 2016, I think it was. Like Wales were the epitome of that. Like they were obviously they had Ramsey and Bale, who were the sort of moments players. But this is, I was actually listening to an interview with James Collins the other day, and like it's what he says, like they built a good squad, they built around them. So it's like they had these 8 other players who did all the sort of, not that they didn't chip in with the day work and stuff, but you know what I mean? They set up, and their job was to sort of keep Wales in games, and then just because they knew, so if we're still in this, Bale's going to ping in a free kick from 25 yards, or Ramsey's going to score a screamer. It's, you know, so it's just about being in the game.
Those freaks can do anything.
Exactly. And Scotland do have those types of players. Like McTominay, every Scottish person who comes in my streams, whatever, keeps telling me McTominay is a different player for Scotland.
Yeah, he turns into a bloody Yaya Toure whenever he puts a Scotland shirt on.
And you've also got John McGinn as well, with his massive arse, and like he's a bit...
I'm a big fan of John McGinn. I really like him.
Yeah,
but
he's great.
Like those two just they can't stop scoring for Scotland either. Yeah, they just score loads of goals. It's great.
And that's before you factor in, like, you've got Andy Robertson, who's like comfortably been one of the best left backs in the league for the last sort of few years. Kieran Tierney, when he's fit, is also at a similar level, I think. Yeah, like you say, it's just missing those sort of players, maybe players in like forward areas. Like, you know, you got, look up, you see Lyndon Dykes. He doesn't really probably inspire much or give you much confidence, but I really like Steve Clarke, because like obviously he was a coach at Chelsea, he was a coach at West Ham when Zola was there, and you know, he's always because he works with Mourinho, right? Always a really well regarded coach.
Yeah.
And I think he did really. I think it was Livingston he was manager of, and he got them into like the top 3 spots in like in Scotland, and a really, really good coach for them. And you know, it'll be interesting to see how far they go. But like you say, if they can get out of the groups and you know get a favourable draw in the knockout rounds, who knows how far they could go.
Who knows? And I mean, for the memes, I'll be saying I hope they lose every game and get battered. But,
absolutely.
Yeah, of course, yeah. only because of the bitterness of Scotland fans against England. But
yeah.
Purely for the memes, and just to wind up, like I say, that corner of the Discord that is full of, like, it's actually got an electric fence around it. There is a bowl of water in there, though, you know, and I've cracked the window, so. Oh, God.
Oh, dear me.
Scott's going to be
right. Yeah. We're going to get a lot of crap for this one. This one comes in from Cookie. Now, I'll be the game he's talking about. I didn't watch because it's a friendly and I didn't care. As much as the media, I think Southgate himself tried to be like, no, it's a really big rivalry. It's like, it's not. It's talking about the England-Australia game, of course, the Commonwealth Derby. And Cookie says, unsure if either watched the England-Australia game. No. But Jesus, when Kane retires internationally, he'll be a huge miss. Watkins scored, but apart from that, fairly poor. Kane brings so much that no other striker for England has. I don't think he means like has ever. I think he means, I'm assuming he means other strikers we've got currently. Yeah, because if he means ever, that's nonsense. But
yeah. Well, speaking of, I don't know if you caught the Dion Dublin take in that. Just speaking, I mean, I could bring it in for the crap football takes. And he kind of went on this. And by the way, Dion Dublin, I think he might be as bad as Michael Owen for stating the bleeding obvious and saying nonsense. Like, I think the reason he gets away with it is because he's just a nice bloke. Like,
yeah,
oh, it's Dion Dublin. Oh, what?
Holmes under the hammer. Oh.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, read the doob. You know. But he went on like this minute-long thing about Harry Kane, and he just felt like all he could do was talk about Bellingham and Harry Kane that game anyway.
Yeah.
But he went on like a minute-long spiel about Harry Kane. He went, "That's why he's one of the best players in the world, and for me, the best I've ever seen." So wait a minute. So he's simultaneously one of the best strikers in the world. But he's also the best one you've ever seen. Yeah. Like, come on, Dion. Like, that's foot in mouth territory right there.
Yeah, I was watching the amount of just just tutting and shaking my head I was doing watching the game last night when Dion Dublin came out of anything. Just like, Shut up, Dion.
It says a lot when you're going, oh, bring out Steve McManaman.
Yeah, it's like, are we savage about? Or okay, maybe not that bad, but like, yeah, oh, God, it was painful. Poor Dion. He's a nice, lovely bloke. We'd like to go for a pint with him, but just got a full commentator.
Oh yeah,
unfortunately for him, just not his trade.
Well, I've completely derailed that question anyway.
But no,
like, I do kind of like. Well, I agree. Like Harry Kane. It's kind of like stating the obvious, really, right? Because he has been one of the best strikers in Europe for the last 6-7 years. Like, questionably, arguably in the world for the last 6 or 7 years. Like, since he really had that breakthrough at like 23, 24, he's grown in stature. You know, you could say that in the last 3 or 4 years, he's been the one of, if not the best, number 9 in Europe. Up there with Benzema and Lewandowski and those kind of players.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of stating the obvious. Like, I only watched the highlights of that Australia game because I didn't watch it. Sorry, it was 1-0 and Australia had more shots. And I thought, Jesus Christ, I'm not going to sit through that. So I watched the highlights, and no one stood out in that game. It's not just. I mean, Ollie Watkins is a very different kind of player to Harry Kane. He actually stays up front. One of my big frustrations with Harry Kane is he spends half the game in defensive midfield trying to play mates, which kind of works when you got Phil Foden and Rashford on the wings and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's like we've got really good midfielders. Like, stay in the box, and you saw it later in the game when he was staying high. Like, he can get in behind, he can run past people, he can be that higher up the pitch threat. So I guess it's hard to change your game when you've been playing it that way for so long, but. At the same time, I think it's better for England if he does that, because he does have that goal scoring threat that not a lot of people do. But the Ollie Watkins thing, yeah, he's not the. I wouldn't say he's the future of it, but I think there are other players, there are other strikers who are coming through who look good. Like, he's not the youngest, but like I think Ivan Toney would be.
Yeah, like he's the one, isn't he?
He's the next one who'd go in if touch wood, Harry Kane was injured for the Euros or like the next World Cup, and he's still going to be in his prime. Hopefully, he comes back in and hits the ground running, because he's a different kind of player. But he's a player who'd link up really well with the attacking players we've got. Like, having someone who is not just a physical, like a good finisher, but a physical presence as well to hold the ball up. Like, having Rashford and Sancho, not Sancho, sorry, Rashford. Sancho's getting nowhere near. I don't know why it's Sancho.
They playing down the park.
Oh, Christ. I'm so used to saying Rashford and Sancho.
Yeah, that's what we thought.
But having Bellingham running beyond, and having players like Foden or Grealish, or these like Sterling, like if he can find his form again, like, and he's shown flashes of it for Chelsea this year. If he can get his form back again, we've got so many good like in behind attacking midfielders or wingers that could play off a different kind of striker like that. He'd be a great option. Same with Callum Wilson. Like, he's another kind of more physical classic number 9 who could do a really good job. And yeah, I agree that there's no one to replace Harry Kane just yet, but there was no one to replace Wayne Rooney until Harry Kane came through, and there was no one to replace Shearer until Wayne Rooney came through. So like, there will be a good player. They've not come through just yet.
Yeah, and arguably, like, not to give him too much spotlight, but arguably we did have one, and he fucked his career up, and now he's playing in Spain. So it's like, not that I'm sad. Obviously, not that I'm sad about it, but like, I think he would have been. But like you say, there will be players coming through that will absolutely take that. And I find with England strikers, it's like it's just a generational thing, isn't it? It's like you say, for one sort of for like a decade, you have. So it was Lineker, then it was Shearer, then it was Owen, it was Rooney. And now it's Harry Kane, and there will be someone after him. I do think with the Australia thing as well. Like, again, I didn't watch it either. Saw the highlights, saw the stats and whatnot, and everyone saying how bad it was. I do think you got to mitigate for the fact that like it was pretty much an entirely changed England 11. Which, like, I think given the way Southgate has got his sort of, like I've said before, like he's sort of almost made that environment with England almost like a club side, and you have your sort of set, maybe not a full 11, but a sort of like 8-9 players who are like. They're the main starters now. And I think when you make that, you see it in club football all the time, like in pre-season or in cup games, you make that many changes. It's never usually that fluid, never usually that cohesive. And I think that probably had a big part to play in it. But I think from Southgate's perspective, I imagine that game was mainly just about seeing what those players, those squad players are capable of. And would have been nice. Yeah, it would have been nice for Jared Bowen to get a goal or get an assist. But like from the highlights I saw, he looked like he was busy. He looked like he got opportunities to create. I think it was just one of them. It's a friendly game that no one really was that asked about, and I don't think I'll be surprised if the message to the squad was, "Oh, go out and batter him." It was probably just like, "Yeah, like go out there and show me what you can do." Like no pressure. Just let's see what comes of this sort of thing. Because obviously the big game was the Italy game.
Show me what you got.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty much that. And obviously the big game was and there was also probably an element of like, don't overdo it, because we've got a massive game against Italy on Tuesday, and we don't know how many of you we're going to need off the bench, or we might start some of you for that game. So I think there was probably a little bit of that in it. So I'm the same with, like, I look at Nations League games really as friendlies as well, in a sense of I don't really care about what happens or who plays or how well England plays. Like whenever I went to Meltdown, we lost 4-1 to Hungary. Like at the end of, I think it was at the end of a season, like a really long season, and
wasn't it the end of the season, coming off the truncated season for lockdown? Then it was the World Cup, and then it was straight into that. So basically,
it was something like that. Yeah,
really had a break in about 3 years or something.
It was like, yeah. And I remember watching it, and everyone was like, "Oh, we're terrible" and stuff. And I just remember watching the game, being like, they all just look like, one, they can't be bothered. I know there's that thing of like, well, you should care. It's like, yeah, you should. But if you just come off the back of like a 80 game season or whatever, and it's been congested because of COVID and whatnot, and like, I think it was off the back of Liverpool losing the Champions League final as well. So I think the Liverpool players in that squad must like, it must be difficult to get yourself up for a Nations League game. Yeah. But yeah, it must be difficult to get yourself up for like a game of a tournament that ultimately doesn't really mean anything other than Euro qualification, or it might boost your chance of qualifying for the Euros or whatever. Like I know that's friendlies, Nations League games I read very little into, but qualifiers I think that is where you can look into, and thankfully England played, I thought, pretty well last night, which I'm sure we'll get onto.
Yeah. Well, we'll go for going on to like further England discussions. Scott Chapman, I forget bored of the Southgate talk, as he isn't going anywhere unless he decides there's enough. So may as well back him. So yeah, basically, yeah, he's around for as long as he wants, really, isn't he?
He's got at least one more tournament. So yeah,
he's there for that at least. It did annoy me when I spoke about Henderson and said he doesn't know why he's getting booed. Yeah, you do. Let's not be stupid. I understand the manager defending a player, but piss off, Gareth. Come on, international breaks really are the pits, aren't they? And also, what are the chances West Ham finish above United?
Massive.
I'll just jump in on the last bit. Right now, really high. But as said before, we're only 8 games in. We're only 2 points off where we were last season, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah,
I think you guys are just more guaranteed to have a much better season than you did domestically, anyway.
Probably, yeah. Probably.
Hopefully we'll be up and around you.
They might have fallen. I think I fully agree. Like you obviously, people, the very few Southgate chats we've had actually on here so far, I think people know my thoughts around him and how he's sort of treated and stuff. And I'm a fan of Southgate. Like, I think he's done a decent job. But I have to say, I did find the whole rhetoric around Henderson and that whole conversation, the fact that it's been a week-long conversation now, I'm just kind of bored of it. Like, yeah. But I did find Southgate's response to it quite irritating, because it's like, one of the things I've always liked about Southgate, especially since he first got the job, especially whether it be like social issues or, like the whole thing surrounding the Henderson conversation, or even just the way he deals with the press and deals with the sort of noise from the fans and the media and everything like that. He's usually a lot more switched on than this.
Yeah.
And if it was like, I think when those quotes came out where he was like, "Oh, it defies logic why they boo him," given how much, and all this sort of nonsense. I think I said on Twitter, it's like, I'm surprised we were able to get a direct quote from Southgate, given how far his head was buried in the sand.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah. It's really like uncharacteristically just ignorant, I think, from someone who has in the past been really, really switched on and always sort of knows the right things to say and how to answer them and stuff. And I think ever since Henderson has gone to Saudi, and since he's included in both squads, I remember like the last squad, he was asked about it, and he was sort of, you could say, very rarely you see him flustered, but he was like, he said, like, I don't really know how to answer this. And it's like, well, you might, like, come on, like, it's not that complex to figure out why people are pissed off about it.
Yeah, like for a guy that, I mean, people were arguing that he shouldn't be in the England squad before he left Liverpool based on his performances, like in his like the level he'd been at, and the amount of injuries he'd had and what he actually brought to the team. I'm not arguing that. Like, I was one of the few Henderson defenders, like 5 years ago. Like, people go, "Oh, what's he doing in the England team?" It's like, what he wants what he obviously wants in a midfielder, which is basically what he's got Calvin Phillips doing right now.
Yeah,
he was a much better option than Calvin Phillips, as like that defensively aware, kind of a little bit box to box, kind of a bit of a motor in the middle of the park. But his performances dropped off for Liverpool. His performances dropped off for England. He's since, sold his morals and gone and played in the Middle East. Like, he's basically retired. Yeah. He's playing in a retirement league now. And he's still getting call-ups over people like James Ward-Prowse and things like that.
Yeah.
Not only that, his comments about, like you say, like the social issues that Jordan Henderson's been really vocal about sticking up for. And his responses to them in the media. And like, he's like, oh, I'm not just going to be a paid shill for the Middle East. And then like literally like 48 hours later, he's like, come on, like this like obviously scripted thing, celebrating. I can't even remember what it was now. I think it was like
it was the Saudi World Cup bid, wasn't it?
Oh, that was it. Yeah.
Saudi World Cup bid. Oh no, Saudi be a great country to host the World Cup. Come on, guys, like this is me saying this, like,
and it was just that whole thing, like the backlash from all that. It's like. And like you say, it's not even all of that. It's the fact that Southgate went, I don't know why they're doing it. It's like, have you been literally under a rock for like the last 6 months? Like, because this is it's just wanton ignorance at that point. Or that, or, like you say, he's just flustered, doesn't know how to respond to it, and rather than going, I don't know how I want to respond to this. I'm not going to talk about it. He's managed to pick the worst response that he could have thought of, and I think he might actually lose like respect from some people over this, because, like you say, one of the big things that he has done is, I don't want to say like towed the party line, but like he's been really good at taking the media spotlight away from the players and keeping the drama to the minimum and all this kind of stuff, and like making it a club feel, making it feel like it's a team that is a likable England team, and like where players all get on with each other and everyone's playing in the same direction, and to then come out with such a thick-headed response to it and like almost like shine more of a light on the issue than there was already. He's really missed the mark on it, and it's.
I would have had more respect for him had he just come out after the Australia game and say, I can understand why sections of the fan base feel the way they do about Jordan, but ultimately, as England manager, it's my job to pick who I think are the best players for the squads, and I feel like I've done that by picking Jordan. You may not have agreed with it if he'd basically come out and said, I've picked him, because he has come out and said, I'm picking him for footballing reasons, and it's like, I'm not saying you have to agree with him, and I'm not saying you have to park the other issues around Henderson and his, in particular, move to Saudi and stuff as a result of that. But I'd at least be like, well, fair enough. Yeah. Like, I don't agree with him, but fair enough. Like that, he's doing what he thinks is best as manager of England. But to sort of almost go on the defensive and, like you say, you'd be all like, it just defies logic, and he's given so much to this country, and like, but it's just, I don't know. It's like I say, it just stinks of just like, so he might as well have just gone in front of the camera, stuck both fingers in his ears, and gone, no, I can't hear you, blah blah blah. You know what I mean? Like, it's like I say, will for ignorance.
It's obviously like a very different subject matter, and the reasoning is different, but like his like continual like over the top defense of Harry Maguire is similar. Like, it's like, I don't understand why people don't want me to pick him, and like he's always been, it's like because he's been shit for United and he's not playing for United, like, and there's more consistent, better performing centre backs playing around. He's done it with that, and I wonder whether he is kind of going into that going a little bit too into that club management mode, where it's like it's us against the world. Like I'll stick up for whatever my players, whatever goes on with my players, like even valid criticism, like things like that. I kind of see why you'd want to do that, but he's not managing it very well. He's not handling it well in the media, and for someone that has handled everything so well in the media so far, it's a real juxtaposition, and it's another thing that makes you go, "Oh man, like, is this? Are you the right guy?"
I think that the reports of him leaving after this tournament are true, and I think you're probably seeing that now. I think in the sense of like, because really, if you know you're going, from his perspective, what is the point in experimenting? Yeah. I guess in terms of the Maguire thing. Who actually, we'll touch on him when we talk more about the game. I actually thought was really good last night. Like, I thought he had a really good game.
Yeah, fair play to him. He was solid.
Like, I I can see the sort of reason of being like, well, fuck it, I'm not here. I'm not building a team for the next World Cup. I need a team that I can trust that can go into the Euros and deploy what I need him to do to try and help us win the tournament. If he thinks Harry Maguire's doing that, and I've always kind of defended, not always, but like I've mostly defended his decisions to include Maguire previously. I do think this particular squad, there was a chance to make truth of when he said like, oh, we need to start playing more for United because otherwise it's going to be a problem. Like John Stones was back. He could have that would have been the opportunity to not call Maguire up and go, I said he needs to start playing. And then that could have forced Maguire's hand to force a move in January, could have gone somewhere, play football. And by the time the Euros does come around, he's got half a season of football and he's under his locker and he's in form and he's a viable option again.
I mean, to be fair, Maguire has been playing more football because every Man United defender's dead at the minute. So it's been him and Johnny Evans as a centre-back pairing. It's been hell.
So maybe it's just worked out that way for him. Southgate's like, he's played 2 games, that's enough. Yeah. But like I said, the Phillips and the Maguire ones, I've always been able to see the reasoning of why he's called them up. I've always been able to give, again, whether people agree with it or not, I've always been able to put forward an argument as to why he's done it and why I think it's not the worst reasoning in the world to call him up. The Henderson one, especially when you like I say, you got Ward-Prowse is right there, like that's the one for me. And I get leadership, all that other stuff, but it's not like he's him and Harry Kane the only leaders in that team. You've got John Stones, you've got Maguire, you've got Pickford, you've got Declan Rice now, who's West Ham captain for 3-4 years. You've got Jude Bellingham is emerging as a leader in that dressing room. Like there are plenty of players who can take that void of. He's basically Connor Cody at this point. And it's like I understood why it's at Connor Cody because he was never going to play. But it's like you're probably going to play Henderson. It's like I actually thought Henderson wasn't even that bad at the last World Cup. I thought he was probably surprisingly quite good. I was surprised how good Henderson was, but I think they asked him in that interview they did on Channel 4 last night, where it's like, well, are you worried about it was interesting actually. They sort of asked about his fitness and where his fitness levels are at, and does he think come the end of the Saudi season and when the Euro starts, are you confident your fitness levels are going to be where they need to be for the Euros? And he didn't really know how to answer. He's like, I mean, I hope so.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's even sure. So I'll be amazed if he actually does take him to the Euros over if Ward-Prowse carries on having the season he does. I'll be amazed if he takes him, but at the same point, I also wouldn't be surprised. So.
Well, it's just another argument as to why he shouldn't have been in this friendly and the Italy game then, because
I agree.
You know, there's not long until the winter break. There's not many more international breaks before the end of the season. Like, when are you gonna have a chance to have a look at the players like James Ward-Prowse, see how they fit in, like especially see how they fit into the first team, right? Yeah. You know, if you're going to be having friendlies, see how he fits in. Like, I don't understand how he's not getting in ahead of Calvin Phillips right now. Because he offers a very similar thing that Calvin Phillips does in that England squad, in terms of like positionally anyway, like being a bit of a box-to-box, defensively aware kind of midfielder. Like, and Calvin Phillips has played about 3 minutes of football in the last 18 months. So
it's interesting because I always looked at Phillips as like the backup for Rice. So I never looked at. I was surprised. I mean, like I was surprised. I think because of who he played, I can kind of understand why he played Phillips. It's all that him and Rice sort of like a double pivot. Because I do, again, it's that thing, isn't it? As a partnership, they've worked really well together for England. But it's like, I always
don't think he was very good against Italy. He should have been sent off. Like,
I don't think he was very good last night. I thought he was very he was clumsy. Is the best way I could describe Phillips, and that might be down to lack of match sharpness. Probably is, but it's that thing. Is like I say, they've always been a good partnership. But my reasoning was always, well, he's not going to play. He's just there in case Rice isn't available, and I don't really think there's a viable number 6 out there apart from maybe Sean Longstaff, who's emerged over the last few months. But are we at the point now where it's a bit too late to start bringing players in now ready for the tournament who have never played for England? I don't know. But if he's going with that double pivot and it's Rice and Phillips, then yeah, I mean, Phillips has spoken today about he admits now he may have to leave City in January. And so for England's sake, I hope he does, because if he does play again half a season for like an Everton or a Palace or whoever, and he does well, again, you end up getting a really good partnership back again between Rice and Phillips. But so it's a big if on whether he does leave or not.
Yeah, potentially. When he was playing well for Leeds, like he was a good number 6. Like he was good in there. But the thing I always kind of bring up is he's never played a full Premier League season due to injuries. Like he's never had a full great season. He's barely played in the last 18 months. Like at some point you've got to go, okay, well, we need to pick people who are actually playing. Like to the point where I'd rather, like I say, James Ward-Prowse or like Conor
Gallagher,
like who was shown that he can play that more withdrawn, number six role for Chelsea, like, and doing a good job of it, being an all-action midfielder. Like, I'd rather see those kind of players who are playing week in, week out. I mean, Conor Gallagher had the captain's armband at Chelsea like a few weeks ago. Like, he's showing that he is taking the bull by the horns there. Like, reward that. You know, he's a very good, very energetic central midfielder. Like, if that's what you want, rather than, like I say, Calvin Phillips, as good as he can be on his day, he's not been on his day for at least 2 years. And playing against I thought England played well, but playing against not the best Italian side, looked clumsy and should have been sent off yesterday. And this isn't just a bag on Calvin Phillips. Like,
no,
you know, I don't want anyone to like get thrown out of their team or like not have an opportunity to play for England, but it needs to be on merit, right? Like, and I just don't think he merits it. Even on performances for England, where there's the counter argument with Harry Maguire is when he plays for England, Harry Maguire is really good. And he is playing a bit for United. He's still fit. So, you know, I'll accept that argument. Calvin Phillips isn't playing that well for England and isn't getting any game time for Man City. Hasn't done for 18 months. Yeah,
it's difficult to argue with. And I think my thing on the form thing, like, I get it more with, like, yeah, they need to be playing. And I agree. And the Maguire thing was frustrating. And I think the longer it goes on, the less he plays. I think you will see that if he plays in the Euros, you will see it.
Not even necessarily for form performance. Need to be playing, just for fitness. Like,
that's what I was going to say. Yeah,
you need your players turning up ready to play 90 minutes. And if you've not been playing, then you're not ready.
Yeah, because I was going to say, like, form for me doesn't necessarily matter in every position of the pitch. Like, I think just because, especially in defence, I think you can, because defences are set up differently depending on, you know, what side you're playing in. So, like, Maguire obviously flourishes more in the way England set their defence up than he does at United for reasons we've spoken about in the past. So you can kind of get away with playing it out of form for United, Harry Maguire, in that England team, because he's got the opportunity to sort of be the best version of Maguire. The only real position I think it really matters for form is probably goalkeeper and striker. Really, I think or attackers, I guess, like every other, like, central midfielder, you can kind of get away with. Like, if Phillips was playing week in, week out for City, but not doing that great because of the style of play they implement. But he was coming in for England match fit and bossing it next to Rice. I think, again, you can't really have many complaints. But like I say, certainly for fitness, it's a must. They play regularly, and for Maguire especially, let's say Phillips, I don't think he actually will end up playing that much of the Euros. Because there's been games in the last few qualification rounds where Phillips hasn't started and we've looked fine. Yeah. So, but Maguire, you know, if he's available, he's going to start and he has to play more. And, you know, if Martinez and Varane come back, he isn't going to be. So
no, definitely. Well, I'll tell you, there's a great pivot to actually move on to the England-Italy game, which was, I thought, first half was an absolute snorefest. Second half was actually pretty impressed. Like, I was pretty impressed with how England played. I thought the front four especially kind of really clicked. And speaking of midfield, like, one of the things I've always said is, like, I'll play Bellingham a little bit deeper and like bring Foden into that midfield. But you can't not play Bellingham higher up the pitch right now because he is. And I'm not just being reactionary in this, because he's been doing this consistently since the start of the season. I think he's in the discussion for one of the best players in the world right now. Not on just on what he can do with the football, but on goal return, assist return, performances, like just ability to step up. I didn't think he was going to struggle moving to Real Madrid. I thought he was going to be a good player, but I've seen players who have looked fantastic at other teams, go to Real Madrid recently, and struggle for the first 6 months, the first 12 months. I'm looking at players like Tchouameni and Camavinga, and like who are in the team now and doing really well.
Yeah.
But like it's taken a little time to bed in. He has gone into that Real Madrid team, and this is still Real Madrid, by the way, who won the Champions League a couple of years ago and are still fantastic. And he's basically become their best player. Karim Benzema's gone, and he's gone in and gone, don't worry about it, I got this. And he's scoring goals, he's assisting goals. I think he's the top scorer in La Liga. Is he top assister as well? But he's got, I don't know if he's top,
he's up there for sure.
Yeah. But he's got like 6 of 5 man of the match awards in 8 games. Like the kid is like, he is insane. And the idea that he might get better is terrifying. But because
he was good at the World Cup.
Perfectly set up for an injury before the Euros.
Well, this is it. I tweeted last night, and this is probably the best way I can describe Bellingham right now, and it's the biggest compliment I can pay to him. He's given me Wayne Rooney 2004 vibes.
I was going to say the exact same thing. It's
Like
this kid is out of this world. Snaps his foot.
Yeah, exactly. So he's either going to do his metatarsal or he's going to get sent off in the quarterfinals against Portugal.
Looking forward to it, Jude.
Yeah,
and he's got that fighter gets sent off in a semi-final as well.
That's the thing. He's just. There's obviously like the technical ability and all that, and like I said, the goal returns and the output and all that. It's just he plays with like this swagger and this sort of arrogance that is like not arrogance in the way that you sort of want to punch him, but like it's just, like I think even if you're playing against him, you just respect it because it's like it's like Ibra. But you know how like some people bag on Ibra for being cocky. I know Ibra can be a bit cringe sometimes when he refers to himself as a lion, but like it's like Ibra can be. He's one. I've always said similar things about Ronaldo. Where he's like those players can be arrogant because they have shown time and time again that they are just up there with the best in class of what they do. And Bellingham at the age of 20, like I don't think, and we've had since Rooney breaking in, we've had England players come into the team who have had promise and that we've been excited about. Like even when Harry Kane started breaking through at Tottenham and then got anything in the squad, it felt like it took a little bit of time for him to establish himself in that England team as a regular. We've not had anyone since Rooney, I don't think, who is just come straight in and is just like, hell.
Well, that was the hope for Foden, wasn't it? Like for the last Euros.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, Foden, he's here, he's ready to go. He's done his hair like Gaza. Like he's ready. And he just had a real like he didn't have a particularly bad tournament. He just had a bit of a
timid,
whimper.
I'd say.
He was a kid. Like there was so much pressure put on him, whereas I feel like Jude Bellingham's kind of snuck in under the radar a little bit. Like he was getting games at 18, like he was getting in the team, and I was like, oh, he's good. Like, but maybe because he's not in the Premier League, he's not under that constant like, look how amazing this young English player is spotlight.
I was thinking this earlier.
He's been picked up by Real Madrid, and Carlo Ancelotti's just raised his eyebrow and gone, you're Zidane now.
He does have that effect, Ancelotti. I love him. I love Carlo. He's just the coolest man in football.
It's like, oh, you're Kaka. Cool. Just do that.
It's like Camavinga. You're a left back. Okay. I guess I am. Fair enough. I think I was thinking this earlier actually. Like I was listening to the rest of his football. Obviously, Gary Lineker, Shearer, and Richards' podcast, and they were every week. It feels like they're just waxing lyrical about Jude Bellingham. But I do think there's that thing of it's almost out of sight, out of mind a little bit, where it's like he's brilliantly at Birmingham. I've got to say, I'm not saying this. I would have probably felt the same way had he gone to any English club. But like, I was going to say, thank God he didn't go to United. I'll rephrase it. Thank God he didn't go to the Premier League when he left Birmingham.
Oh no, to be honest, thank God he didn't go to United because look how good we've been at developing players.
Exactly.
He's developed somewhere else.
Yeah, he'll be back on loan in Birmingham, but I think he's like I say, he's gone to Germany. He's got his head down. He's just got on with it and just been developing and obviously got anything in the squad. And to be fair to Southgate, like he brought him I think he took him to the Euros, but he was still like 18. Didn't really play him loads. Last World Cup though, pretty much in the start from the get-go and played nearly every game. I only played against France. Played all the important games there at 18 or 19. And now he is a mainstay in that England squad. And like I say, he's gone to Madrid. And because he's not got the Monday Night Football segments on him, or he's not got the Super Sunday, like, oh, we've done the game now, let's do an hour on Jude Bellingham and talk about how great he's going to be. Like, he's off doing it.
Away from the criticism of the Red Tops and the people who just want to hate on English players in the Premier League or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Away from the limelight. I don't get me not for 1 second am I saying, Real Madrid, famously like very calm media reporting. But the probably can't even read it. So what does he care?
Yeah. But yeah, it's incredible, and I think it's a really like I haven't felt this excited. Again, I keep harking back to it. I haven't felt this excited about an England player coming in since Rooney. Like that, Rooney breaking in 2004 and taking that Euros by like I actually watched not the whole documentary again, but I went back and watched that segment in the Rooney documentary where they talk about that first game in the Euros against France. And he just basically takes the piss out of the entire France team. Like I think he goes up against Marcus Thuram and just fucking bodies him off the ball and then pirouettes away from him. And it's like 18. He's this ugly 18-year-old scouser from Everton, and he's just gone and done that against one of the world's best defenders. And I think Thierry Henry was just like, he was asking about Thierry Henry, was just like, we were like, oh. Oh, okay.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Yeah, basically, yeah. So you get the impression of, and the thing is, at that point, Rooney had only just gone in at Man United, and he always had that moment at Everton where he scores that goal against Arsenal, and then he was kind of in and out the team, and he goes to United, gets that Champions League hat trick, is brilliant for United that first season, and goes to the Euros, and he was best. He was the best player in the tournament up until he did he get sent off in that? Oh, no, it was the injury. He got injured in that. So it was the one after he got sent off.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Bellingham's got that, plus the swagger, plus the confidence of like, I'm Real Madrid's main man. It's like there's I'm Man United's main man, and then I'm fucking Real Madrid's main man.
Yeah.
Like there's levels. Do you know what I mean? Like,
and I think like
so
the players around him seem to, and I think there's a bit of that with the fan base and the media as well. As like, it's like, oh, like there's always the shiny thing over at Madrid or the shiny thing over at Barcelona is always better than anything we got at Arsenal. It's like, yeah, but that guy's English.
Yeah,
he plays for us.
This never happens. Like,
it's other than like Beckham in the latter years or like things like that. It's like, no, like I always feel bad for Steve McManaman because he went over to play for Real Madrid and was a mainstay and a big part of that team, an incredible footballer for him. But as on the right winger at the time when David Beckham was one of the best players in the world, it's like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, Figo. There was that little Portuguese player called Figo who was there as well, who was quite good. So
It kind of just went over him a little bit. But anyway, we're turning into their podcast, the Richards and everything podcast, waxing lyrical about Jude Bellingham. One of the big things I really liked was the interplay of that front four. So I think the first half felt a bit turgid. And I think the second half showed what can be done when England, they're allowed to express themselves a little bit, because you saw Bellingham take control of the game. I thought Phil Foden looked really good off that left, some of the interplay that those two had together. Rashford, I thought in the first half, he was being left on his own to try and beat it. The amount of times that I saw him on the left-hand side with 4 Italian players around him, it was like, who am I giving it to? but when players started like getting up and supporting him, he got him a little bit of space, and he had that really good finish. It was great to see him score a goal.
It's a great goal as well.
Just the whole build-up of it as well, like the entire breakaway of it was really nice. And if we can have those players, and let's not forget, you've got players like Saka and Grealish in there as well, and James Maddison who can come in if you need him to. That selection of players behind Harry Kane is so good. Which again, like I'll go on to, is like I think is the frustration with a lot of people with Southgate, in that like you've got this incredible, like a lot of players who are like in their early 20s or mid 20s, like they've got so much energy and creativity and will to just like take the game to people, and it's like you're sitting Calvin Phillips and the back four all really deep and not getting support up to him a little bit, like. But you see in the second half against Italy. And I will reiterate, I don't think it's the best Italy side, and it's a Italy side under a new manager with a lot of
rebuild,
young players. I think that they might do all right. Come to the Euros, but it's not the Italy team that won the Euros with a team full of old heads and like really experienced players. And I'll still never, I'll still never let off Chiellini for choke slamming Bukayo Saka as he's running down the touchline.
I've got to say on that, Chiellini was probably my like, as much as I hated him for he didn't that, he was probably one of my highlights that Euros, because he was just a massive shithouse the entire time. Like there's that Spain game where he's fucking chilling Jordi Alba for like basically going like, "Oh, you little scamp."
It was a guy who obviously knew, I can't run anymore, so I'm just gonna have to I'm just gonna have to win it, like the ultimate dark arts. Like Jose Mourinho was applauding that.
It's a purely mental game at that point. Yeah, fuck Chiellini, what a guy.
Oh man, but yeah, like I've completely gotten off the topic. The second half against Italy. You saw what it could be like when play with a little bit more tempo and like let these players off the leash a little bit. It's like cool, like Harry Kane beating defenders for pace and like muscling people out of the way, and I thought it was really good. And like I said, hopefully performances or parts of games like that will hopefully make him realize I can like let him off the leash a little bit here. We are good enough to take the game to to good teams and to win stuff, because I think for me personally, like my frustration is just his ability to manage in game and know when to sit back and when to attack, because it feels like it's something that I saw loads with Mourinho at Man United. It's something that you see with Moyes. Like you've said it yourself, you go, we'll goal up, and you go, cool, let's sit back. It's like no, we've got we've got some of the best young attacking talent in the world. Let's go 2 or 3 up, and then maybe defend. Like, let's do that, and then we'll solidify rather than going 1-0 up. Perfect. Let's sit everyone behind the ball now.
To be fair, I hear that, and I do think there was a case of that in the last Euros, particularly. I think especially in the final. And I completely understand people's frustrations with that final in particular, and like our approach in certain games leading up to it. I do think though the World Cup, I thought we were a lot better than I think we get credit for, and I think Southgate actually was a lot braver than he perhaps gets credit for. I think people look at the Euros, the last World Cup, and it's sort of like, yeah, we drew 0-0 with the US. It's like, yeah, but it's fine. It didn't really make a difference in the end. But I remember the France game, I was so surprised at how much on the front foot we were, and we actually did go toe-to-toe with them. I don't remember that France game of us sitting back, and obviously we had issues with Griezmann and whatnot, and that definitely could have been sorted out a lot sooner. But I thought the France game was a really, really close fought game where we went toe to toe with them, and I do think we are. I do think we are. I mean, I know Senegal aren't the best example because they're not great. They're not the best team ever, but you know they won AFCON going into that World Cup. Like we breezed past them with ease. Like same with Wales. Everyone said we were going to struggle against Wales. Breezed past them like it was nothing. I think a game like last night, and I can kind of maybe it's because I'm so used to Moyes ball over the last few years. I can kind of I can understand the reasoning with those type of more pragmatic managers, where it's like. So Italy under a new manager, maybe not a lot of data on how they're going to approach the game and whatnot. Maybe I think the first half to me seemed like let's just keep it tight and figure them out and see see how they're going to approach it. And then because like you say, second half we were like a different team. Second half, I thought we had they were causing us a lot of issues down our left hand side in the first half. With Trippier and Rashford and stuff, and they looked really dangerous on the counter attack. I thought second half we made a few tweaks, and all of a sudden that counter attack threat wasn't really there anymore, and we were just in complete control. And even when we did go 2-1 up, I never really got the impression that we necessarily sat off, that we just like every time we went forwards, maybe there was less players there, but we were still going forward with purpose. Whereas the Moyes thing I've said before, it felt like Newcastle being an example of the other week. We're a goal up and when we get the ball sort of in around the 18-yard box, rather than trying to progress up the pitch, it's just I'm just going to hoof it. And it's like I didn't really get that. Like aimlessly, I didn't really get that with England last night. I felt like there was a way to get the ball out of the pitch, but it was just a little bit more conservative, having a few more players back, if that makes sense.
Yeah. To be fair, I think he's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't.
Yeah.
By this point, like we said, this is probably going to be his last tournament. I think you're either a Southgate. I don't even want to say like a Southgate doubter or a Southgate supporter. Like I don't think anyone's kidding themselves that he's a wonderful, like the best manager in the world. No. I don't think anyone's kidding themselves that he's not done an incredible job with England. Like I'm not a Southgate fan massively, but I can't sit here and say he's not done a good job with England because he has. No. Like you can see his track record of getting further into tournaments. He's like there's a better feel about the place. I'm not saying he's he's done a bad job with England. My frustration with him has just always been, it just feels like there could have been a bit more. Like it just feels like we were just it was someone who was a little bit braver, someone who could make that change 10 minutes early. Like the big thing for me, you bring up the France game, and I know hindsight's always 20/20, but that thing of Marcus Rashford, who every minute he'd played looked like one of the most dangerous players in the tournament. He'd scored a load of goals. He'd just come into form before the World Cup. He carried it into that, and after that, he carried Man United. And it's like there's a space here to get at them, and he gave him like 3 minutes at the end of the game. It's like, come on, like just let this lad run at someone. Like he's terrified everyone he's played, and it just felt like a little bit. Oh, maybe if we can hang on, we can spring it at the end, and it just waited a little bit too long. But like I said, I mean, it's nitpicking at that point, really, and I'm never going to be one of these people. We should change the manager before the next tournament, or one of those
sack him mid-tournament.
One of those cases, but it'd have just been, it'll be interesting to see. The interesting thing will be, and it kind of rolls back to the point. Who was it made it early? Was it Scott Chapman? I can't remember. Was it talking about England? No, sorry, it was Cookie. Sorry. Saying about Harry Kane, like it'll be interesting to see how this group of players go into the next few tournaments, because that centre-back partnership of Stones and Maguire, they're not old, but they're not young. Kyle Walker isn't getting any younger. You've got Kieran Trippier, who's now in his early 30s. We've got a really good young midfield, but how many tournaments is Harry Kane going to be around? So it is going to be that, like, there's going to be a lot of change there, and it's going to be interesting to see what kind of manager comes in and how they rebuild the team or reshape the team once he goes.
It's interesting because I feel like this being potentially likely being Southgate's last tournament. Again, it's why I kind of understand going with his sort of trusted players or his favourites, or people want to frame it, because it's like it is his team, and like I said, if it's his last tournament with them, you might as well go with them. And I think it's like I say, it is a good opportunity then for the next guy to come in, and then you look at, like, if it's Kyle Walker, you're looking to replace, you've got Reece James, you've got Trent. If it's, you still got Luke Shaw and Chilwell are still at decent ages, they can go for a couple more tournaments. Centre back, it's interesting you mention, actually. I thought when Mark Gay came on, what was like half hour left yesterday, I thought he looks really, really good. Like,
I really like he's great. Yeah, he improves. Like, I was going to say every year, it feels like he improves every game. Every game I see him playing, it's like, yeah, he's a proper player.
Yeah, it's like the thing is, I don't watch a lot of Palace. Like, it's just not on telly that much, and I've got a weird dislike of Palace for some reason. Even though their squad's really likable, I just find Palace annoying. But like, I follow.
Brighton fan, aren't you?
Yeah,
the weirdest rivalry in football.
Yeah, but I follow HLTCI, obviously the big Palace fan account on Twitter and stuff, and he waxes lyrical about Gahey every single week, and I feel like he's one of them. It's like, if you don't watch him week in, week out, you don't really get how good he is. Kind of how I was with Rice when Rice was sort of breaking into the West Ham squad for the first time, right? Like, but yeah, last night I saw him come on, and he didn't do anything particularly like that, stood out. He was just so solid. And I think him as an option, like I said, with the Maguire stuff, is really good to have. I think Dunk as an option with the Maguire stuff going on is really good to have. Obviously, no spring chicken himself. But you still got Tomori coming through. Loads of really good. Like, I think England are in a really good spot. Colwell.
As bad as everyone's been at Chelsea, like he's as for a 20-year-old, 21-year-old, he's incredible.
Yeah. I think the future is really, really striker is the one concern, and it's gutting really that Tammy's career has gone the way it's gone. Not he was bad; he's been bad for him. He had one really good season, one off season. Now he's done his ACL, so it's like you do have question marks about what Abraham's future is going to look like. I always looked at Abraham as like, you're the next guy after Kane, and it maybe doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. Maybe we have to wait and see how he recovers from his injury. But apart from striker, I think England are in a really, really healthy spot, I think, across the board, really. And like I said, the next guy after Southgate, it'd be really interesting to see what he does with that team. And depending on how the tournament goes, whether it's, winning another trophy or looking to take the next step to win a trophy, which kind of brings me on to my next point. How far do you think we've qualified now? It's official. We go through as group winners. How far do you think England can go? Like, should we be looking ourselves as out and out favourites, or just in a group of contenders, or like, what are your expectations?
I don't think we can be out and out favourites, but I think we can be considered with some of the favourites for the tournament.
I agree.
I think the France squad is really good. I'll be honest, I've not watched a ton of France play. My last experience of watching a full 90 minutes of a France game was the World Cup final. So that's a couple of years ago.
Which they weren't bad in, to be fair.
Yeah. It was Lionel Messi turning on the Lionel Messi switch to win that World Cup, basically, wasn't it? So, like, I mean, they've got like an unbelievable squad of players. So if everyone's fit, if everyone's firing, like if everyone's singing off the same hymn sheet, like they will be really tough to beat. Portugal seem to be quietly turning around a really good, like, refreshed team. They've got some really good young players.
Portugal's squad is ridiculous. Yeah. Like, Portugal's squad is unbelievable.
When you look at like talking about England's like three attacking midfielders and their options behind their striker, when you look like Portugal have got Rafael Leao and Bruno Fernandes and Bernardo Silva, it's like, they're really good. That's scary. We
got Ramos, Andre Silva, even attacking. I've seen Ronaldo sort of starting to wind, not starting to, but Ronaldo, you wonder how many more tournaments he's got. Probably one more tournament left in him, maybe two at a stretch.
I think he'll have this one, I reckon. I don't think he'll go to another World Cup. And again, it might depend on how many minutes he actually gets as their main striker. I think the one thing that'll hold Portugal back will be the same thing that held back the golden generation of Belgium, and that's their manager. Because I just don't think Martinez. Martinez strikes me as a guy who would be an unbelievable sporting director, because he just got this like incredible understanding of football, like incredible understanding of players and relationships and all that kind of stuff. Like when you hear him talk about football, like especially when. Because he does like the odd ITV show and stuff. Like he'll be on the pundit panels. Like I could listen to him talk about football for hours because he's so knowledgeable. But he's never shown that he's a very good manager. And
no,
it's unbelievable to me that you'd see what he did with that Belgium team that underachieved massively, I think, with the quality of the players that they had for the entire period that he was there. And Portugal with this wonderful blend of, very similar to Belgium, actually, of experienced older heads who are at the top of their game, like unbelievable young talent coming through, and they go, let's get the guy who killed Belgium.
You know? Yeah. Like, it's like who's managed golden generations before? Oh, Martinez. Did he? It doesn't matter. He managed them. It'll be fine.
Sorry. We'll get Capello if that doesn't work.
So yeah, I think for me, I've always been of the mindset of like I've never been able to put England in that same bracket, especially as France. I think if France aren't at a tournament, I put us right up there as like, yeah, we can go win this. France just terrify me whenever I see them at a tournament because, like I said, the sheer amount of talent they just have at their disposal, like all over the pitch. Like,
I will counter that with, though, I'm sure like other nations look at the England squad, and especially again those attacking players, and go and have a similar feeling. Like, you've got one of the best strikers in Europe, you've got some of the best young attacking talent in Europe. You know, our defense is shaky, but everyone's defense is shaky internationally. So.
Yeah. This is what I was gonna say. It's like, but previously that's how I always go into it, and it might be me getting caught up in the hype. I do just feel like Bellingham is that X factor.
Yeah,
I know Kane maybe should have been all these years, and I understand because of his role, and I do actually think him dropping deeper with Bellingham in the team kind of serves us better now than it probably ever has done before, because like Bellingham just is always available for those making those runs, and the sort of intelligence of the runs that he makes, I think, will serve quite well. But like I said, maybe it might just be me getting caught up in the hype. But I think you look at other nations like France have got Mbappe as their X factor, who can just out of nowhere just flip a game on its head, like he did in that World Cup final.
Yeah,
like they're 2-0 down outside, and all of a sudden Mbappe just goes, nah, like I'm not having this, and it's out of nowhere it's 2-2, and it's a game all of a sudden. I think we've got someone in Bellingham who can do that, and like you say, I think Kane playing for Bayern for a year and playing more in Europe and playing in a different league with other European players, I actually think I hope will serve him better for playing at international level a little bit more than, you know, I'm not saying he's always been bad at international level, but I can't see it as a bad thing that he's playing in a different country with other European players, you know?
It might be a similar thing to Bellingham, just kind of get away from the cauldron that is the Premier League and the constant pressure and the constant media hype, and playing in a different nation where they don't really care that much because, you know, there's not as many people that give as much of a shit about the foreign players who have got all this expectation on them. It's when you're in England, you know, being the next English talent or the big English talent, you get all this pressure on you. I'm sure it's the same in Spain and the same in Germany, but, you know, when you're the English bloke in it or in their leagues, then maybe the pressure's off a little bit. You can just concentrate on your football a bit more.
Yeah,
hopefully
exactly.
So. Hopefully that is the case.
Yeah, so I've got height, and if we get a decent draw and we manage to avoid France somehow, and maybe they implode like they are prone to do in France, like it's not. I love a protest. So maybe England can go far, but I do think we've had some good chances, and obviously the last Euros was our best chance. Then I do think we've got a really, really good chance now, and it's luck of the draw. It's luck of, again, it's like Gary Lineker was saying in this podcast I listened to earlier, like. You do need just a little knockout football. You do just need a little bit of luck to go. You can prepare as well as you can. You can play as well as you can. Sometimes something can just go against you, and just for some inexplicable reason, like again, Rooney in 2004, just gets done in a game, breaks his metatarsal, and England screwed from that point onwards. If we can avoid stuff like that and keep everyone fit, who knows? And I still maintain, I think the way Southgate sets us up, and again, maybe it's because I've watched Moyes do it for us in Europe last year. I do think the way he plays does serve knockout football quite well, and I hope that he can. It'd be great for him if he can bow out his last tournament as England manager, bow out with a trophy. So
yeah,
I hope he can
that'd
do
be good. I think that'd be a perfect kind of. You know, we've talked in the past about, was it the perfect time for Moyes to walk away? I think that'd be the perfect
going into the sunset,
right off into the sunset with the trophy.
Yeah.
Like, there you go, boys. Like. Good luck replacing all these old dudes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well,
yeah, God,
fantastic. Well, we kind of covered the awful pundit take of the week before with with poor old Dion. So I think we'll end it there today.
Sorry, I've just ever since you've mentioned it, I've had like little quotes from Dion Dublin coming to my head throughout recording this. The amount of times where he was just saying like, what was it he said about Bellingham? Where he was like, Bellingham did like a little like flick back sort of pass sort of thing, and he goes like, looks like the most easy thing in the world, but it's not. but he makes it look easy. I'm like, you're just saying words, Dion. That doesn't mean anything. And he keeps getting every 5 seconds. He kept going. So if you're a young footballer, just watch this. This is it's like what? Like
if you're an old footballer, turn off.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Bless him. But again, reiterate, lovely bloke. He's doing his best, but it's an hard listen.
I think that's the thing, whereas at least he's likable, unlike most of the other people who talk out their arsehole on TV.
Yeah, Christ.
But anyway, we've once again we've perfectly kept to our 1 hour schedule with a nearly 90-minute podcast again. So thank you for joining me. Thank you all for tuning in. As always, if you are new, make sure you're subscribing or following on whatever platform you are listening to us on. You can find us on YouTube and all good platforms. Podcast platforms.
Podcast platforms. Platform podcasts.
I'm going very Bill and Ben right now. It's been a long night. As always, make sure you're following us on United Frontcast on all social media fronts. And like I said, give us a follow on Twitter and get involved in the discussions that we have on there weekly or bi-weekly or whatever. Cheers for tuning in. I'll see you next time, guys. And take it easy.
Bye. Shouts to Dion Dublin.
The Doob Master.
The Doob.